Look at this 1940s KitchenAid Model K mixer. A hulking beast of cast iron and steel that still whips batter like it's fresh off the assembly line. Now glance at a modern kitchen mixer, a flimsy contraption that's lucky to survive a holiday baking season before its cheap plastic gears grind to dust. How did we go from crafting domestic tools with the durability of industrial machinery to producing disposable junk that clogs landfills? Let's step back to the early 1940s. A time when America wasn't just a nation but a roaring engine of production, dubbed the arsenal of democracy. The world was at war, and every sector of society, down to the humble kitchen, had to pull its weight. Families on the home front faced rationing, scarcity, and the unrelenting demand to support the war effort through sheer grit. A kitchen appliance wasn't a luxury or a throwaway gadget. It was a critical tool, as vital to morale as a soldier's rifle. Failure wasn't an option when butter and sugar were rationed. You couldn't afford a mixer that broke down mid-batch. This was do-or-die engineering, where a machine had to perform under pressure. Just like the nation itself, because a broken tool meant wasted resources in a time when every ounce of flour mattered. The KitchenAid Model K, designed by industrial pioneer Egmont Ahrens and built by Hobart, emerged from this crucible of necessity. It wasn't conceived as a consumer trinket, but as a scaled-down version of the heavy-duty commercial bakery equipment that powered industrial kitchens. The secret sauce of this machine lay in its unrelenting commitment to over-engineering, a philosophy that scoffed at minimalism and embraced brute strength. Its core were gear-driven system, a masterpiece of metallurgy where every component was milled from solid, high-grade alloy steel. The heart of the drivetrain featured a precision-ground steel worm gear meshing with a massive bronze gear, generating torque that could knead the toughest dough without a hint of strain. This wasn't a system prone to slipping or stretching like the belt-driven toys of today. It was a fortress of mechanical logic, built with safety factors calculated for a century of use, not a measly 3-year warranty. The body, crafted from gray iron castings, weighed in like a small anvil, absorbing vibration and heat without cracking. Each gear tooth was case-hardened, a process that baked durability into the steel under intense pressure, ensuring that the planetary action, the orbiting motion of the beater maintained zero tolerance, even after decades of grinding through dense mixtures. This was raw sensory physics at work, the weight of the iron frame anchoring the machine against the inertia of heavy loads. The heat of friction dissipated through thick metal, and the relentless pressure of meshing gears, refusing to yield. They didn't just build a mixer. They forged a legacy in steel, a testament to an era when America's manufacturing might was measured in the heft of its iron. But let's not romanticize the human side of this story too much. The women who operated these machines in wartime kitchens weren't just baking cakes. They were waging their own battles against exhaustion and time. These mixers, though marvels of engineering, were heavy and unforgiving. Lugging a nearly 30-pound machine into position on a countertop demanded raw strength. And there was no ergonomic design to ease the strain on wrists or backs. The roar of the motor and the clank of steel gears filled small kitchens with industrial noise, a constant reminder of the machine's power and its potential danger. A momentary lapse, inattention could catch a finger in the beater, and there were no safety cutoffs or plastic guards to save you. The physical toll was real, aching muscles from wrestling with the machine, hands blistered from gripping cold metal, and the ever-present risk of injury if you underestimated its force. These women worked in the heat of unventilated kitchens, often for hours, their sweat mixing with the dough as they pushed through rationed recipes to feed families and send care packages to soldiers overseas. This wasn't a hobby. It was labor, as grueling in its own way as the factory floors where men built tanks. Now, fast forward through the decades. These 1940s KitchenAid mixers have endured. Many still running today with little more than routine oiling and the occasional replacement of a worn brush in the motor. They've handled countless batches of bread dough, whipped cream for generations of birthdays, and taken the abuse of clumsy hands without flinching. Compare that to a modern mixer, where a single tough job can strip a sacrificial plastic gear a deliberate weak point designed to fail under stress. Supposedly to protect the motor, but really to force you into buying a new unit. I've seen these contemporary machines priced at hundreds of dollars, rendered useless by a 10-cent nylon tooth snapping under load, turning a once-proud appliance into scrap for the landfill. Why did we abandon the old ways? It's simple: profit margins and planned obsolescence. Building with milled steel and labor-intensive machining takes time and money, while injection-molded plastic and quick assembly lines churn out units at a fraction of the cost. The industry hides behind excuses like noise reduction or safety features, but any veteran machinist knows it's a calculated trade-off of quality for speed. We've traded heirlooms for disposables, and the result is a kitchen full of gadgets that die before the recipe book gets dog-eared. So, where are these old iron warriors now? Many still sit on countertops, proudly bearing scratches and dents as badges of honor, while others rest in museums or collectors' hands, a reminder of a time when built to last wasn't a marketing slogan but a mandate. As I think about them, I can't help but wonder if progress has cost us more than we gained. We've traded the enduring sovereignty of steel for the fleeting convenience of plastic. And I'm not sure the bargain was worth it. Let's dig deeper into the unrelenting spirit of the 1940s. A time when the American kitchen wasn't just a place for meals, but a battleground of resilience. The nation was gripped by the Second World War, and every citizen, from factory workers to homemakers, was enlisted in the fight for survival. Rationing turned every ingredient into a precious commodity. Sugar was gold, butter a luxury, and flour a hard-won staple. A mixer in this era wasn't a frivolous gadget to be tossed aside when it failed. It was a lifeline, a tool that had to work without faltering, because wasting even a single batch of dough could mean hunger for a family already stretched thin. The pressure was immense, not just on the machines, but on the people who depended on them. This was an age of sacrifice, where the home front mirrored the war front in its demand for endurance. If a machine broke down, there wasn't a customer service line to call or a quick replacement waiting at the store. You either fixed it with whatever scraps you had or went without, and in a time of scarcity, without wasn't an option. The KitchenAid Model K was born from this crucible, a machine that had to match the iron will of the people using it, because failure could tip the delicate balance of daily survival. Now, let's turn our gaze to the hands that wielded these beasts of steel, hands often calloused and weary, belonging to women who carried the weight of wartime kitchens on their shoulders. These weren't leisurely bakers with time to spare. They were the unsung soldiers of the home, juggling endless responsibilities, while the world outside raged with conflict. Operating a Model K wasn't a simple plug-and-play affair. The machine's sheer mass demanded physical strength just to move it into place, often requiring a determined heave onto a countertop already crowded with the tools of rationed cooking. Once it roared to life, its presence was commanding, filling the room with the harsh grind of metal on metal. A sound that echoed the industrial might of the factories producing war materiel, but that power came with peril. There were no soft edges or automatic shutoffs to protect distracted fingers from the whirling beaters. A split second of inattention could lead to a crushed digit or worse, and the stories of such injuries weren't rare. The heat of a cramped kitchen, often without proper ventilation, compounded the ordeal. Sweat dripped into mixing bowls as these women pushed through hours of labor, their bodies aching from the strain of handling heavy equipment and dense mixtures. Their forearms burned from the effort of guiding attachments, and their backs bore the burden of stooping over unforgiving metal frames. This was grueling work, made harder by the knowledge that every batch of bread or cookies wasn't just sustenance, but a thread of normalcy for families torn apart by war. Or A small comfort sent in care packages to soldiers on distant battlefields. The human cost was etched into every loaf and every scar. Fast forward through the years, and the contrast between then and now becomes a bitter pill to swallow. These old mixers, built with the soul of a tank, have weathered decades of use with a stubborn refusal to quit. Many have churned through thousands of recipes. Their steel gears still meshing with the same precision they had on day one, their cast iron bodies shrugging off the nicks and scrapes of time. I've seen units from 1941 still tackling the heaviest tasks. Their motors humming with a confidence that modern appliances can only dream of. Now, cast your eyes on today's kitchen mixers. Fragile shells of their ancestors, where a single ambitious kneading session can spell doom. I've watched a brand new, overpriced model grind to a halt when a cheap plastic cog, intentionally weak to save the motor, shatters under pressure, leaving a heap of useless parts. That's the modern way designing failure into the system so you're forced to buy again. Why did we turn our backs on the old methods? It boils down to cold, hard economics. Crafting machines with precision-milled steel and labor-heavy processes eats into profit margins when you can slap together a unit with molded synthetics in half the time. Manufacturers dress it up as innovation, claiming lighter materials reduce noise or enhance safety. But anyone who's ever turned a wrench knows it's a sham. It's about cutting corners, not cutting better dough. We've swapped the kind of durability that made a tool a family heirloom for a disposable culture, where a machine's lifespan is measured in months, not generations. So, where do these relics of a tougher era stand today? Plenty of them remain in service, perched on kitchen counters across the country. They're battle scars, a testament to a time when things were built to endure. Others have found refuge in private collections or museum displays, preserved as artifacts of an industrial philosophy we've largely abandoned. Some are still sought after, restored by enthusiasts who recognize the value of craftsmanship over convenience. As I reflect on their legacy, a gnawing thought lingers. Have we lost more than we've gained in our rush towards so-called progress? We've traded the unyielding strength of forged steel for the brittle promise of fleeting efficiency. And I can't shake the feeling that we've sold our heritage for a handful of cheap, broken gears. Let's peel back another layer of this story and dive into the raw, unrelenting reality of how these 1940s KitchenAid Model K mixers became more than just kitchen tools. They became symbols of a nation's unbreakable resolve. We've already seen the wartime crucible that forged them and the sweat of the women who wielded them. But now, it's time to confront how these machines stood as bastions of endurance through the grind of history. Their story isn't just about mixing dough. It's about a philosophy of construction that treated every piece of equipment as if the fate of a family, or even a nation, hung in the balance. In an era when every resource was rationed and every effort counted, these mixers were built to be as dependable as the human spirit driving the war effort. They weren't designed for a quick sale or a flashy showroom. They were engineered to be the last line of defense in a kitchen under siege by scarcity and uncertainty. Let's explore how they've defied the decades, how they mock the frailty of today's throwaway culture, and what their survival whisper about the choice of immagines. Look at these machines after 80 years of service. Many still stand ready, their heavy iron frames unbowed by time, their motors growling to life with the same authority they had when they first left the factory floor. I've come across units that have mixed dough for entire generations, grandmothers passing them down to daughters, who then handed them to their own children, each batch of batter a thread in a family's history. These mixers have endured dropped bowls, spilled ingredients, and the clumsy hands of countless novices, yet their steel gears continue to mesh with a precision that borders on defiance. They've absorbed the vibrations of endless hours of operation, their cast iron soaking up the stress without a crack or a complaint. Some bear the patina of age, their once shiny surfaces dulled by time, but beneath it where lies a core of strength that refuses to yield. This isn't just durability. It's a kind of mechanical stubbornness, a refusal to break under the weight of history. They've seen kitchens evolve from wartime austerity to post-war abundance and beyond. And still, they churn on, as if to prove a point about what real craftsmanship means. Now, hold that image of enduring strength against the pitiful reality of today's kitchen appliances, and the comparison stings like a slap. Pick up a modern mixer from a big-box store, and you're holding a ticking time bomb of planned failure. I've seen these shiny new models priced, as if their heirlooms crumble after a single season of heavy use. The culprit? A flimsy plastic gear buried in the drivetrain, engineered to snap under strain as a so-called safeguard for the motor. It's a cruel irony, a $500 machine reduced to rubble by a component worth pennies, forcing you to shell out for a replacement while the old iron giants laugh from the sidelines. I recall a specific instance with a popular bronze mixer, marketed as professional grade, that failed spectacularly during a holiday baking marathon. The owner, attempting a dense fruitcake mix, heard a sickening crack as the nylon teeth gave way, leaving the machine lifeless and the kitchen in chaos. This isn't an accident. It's a business model. Modern manufacturers prioritize turnover over toughness, banking on your frustration to drive the next purchase. These appliances aren't tools. They're disposable placeholders, destined for the trash heap long before they've earned their keep. So, why did we abandon the rugged brilliance of the past for this fragile present? The answer lies in a shift of values, where the bottom line eclipsed the benchmark of quality. Back in the 1940s, building a mixer meant investing in materials like high-grade steel and labor-intensive processes that demanded skilled hands and meticulous care. Every unit was a commitment, a promise that it would stand by you through thick and thin. Today, that approach is deemed inefficient, a relic of a slower time. Mass production with cheap, molded plastics and automated assembly lines slashes costs and ramps up output, letting companies flood the market with products that look good on the shelf but falter under real-world pressure. They spin narratives of improved safety or quieter operation to justify the downgrade, but it's a hollow excuse. The truth is, durability doesn't sell in a world obsessed with the new and the now. Planned obsolescence isn't a bug. It's the feature that keeps the cycle of consumption spinning. We've traded the kind of engineering that built machines to outlast their owners for a system that bets on your appliance dying, just as the warranty expires. And where do these old warriors of the kitchen stand in our modern landscape? Many remain in active duty, holding court on countertops in homes where their value is still understood, their dings and scratches worn like medals of honor. Others have been retired to quieter lives, displayed in museums, or cherished by collectors who see them as more than nostalgia. They're a blueprint of what we've lost. A few have been lovingly restored, their gears oiled and their motors tuned by enthusiasts who refuse to let that era of grit fade into obscurity. As I think on their journey, a heavy question settles in my chest. Have we bartered away something irreplaceable in our chase for fleeting convenience? These mixers, forged in the fires of war and necessity, remind us of a time when good enough was never enough, when a tool was a legacy. Now, surrounded by gadgets that crumble at the first test, I can't help but feel we've paid a steep price for progress, a price measured not just in dollars, but in the soul of what we once knew how to build. Let's close this journey through the iron heart of the 1940s by facing the ultimate testament of the KitchenAid Model K machine that wasn't just a mixer but a monument to an era when America built to defy time itself. We've walked through the wartime desperation that birthed it, marveled at the raw engineering that made it a fortress of steel, and honored the sweat and strain of the women who wrestled with its might. Now, it's time to stand in the shadow of its legacy to see how it has spat in the face of obsolescence, while today's hollow imitations crumble. This isn't just a story of a kitchen tool. It's a reckoning with what we've forsaken in our blind march toward a throwaway world. These machines were forged in a fire of necessity, and their survival challenges us to question whether our modern conveniences are worth the cost of forgetting how to build for forever. Cast your eyes on these relics after nearly a century of service, and you'll witness a kind of mechanical immortality. Many of these mixers still dominate kitchen counters, their hulking frames as steady as the day they were unboxed, their motors snarling to life with a ferocity that belies their age. I've encountered units that have kneaded dough for entire family trees, passing through hands from the wartime ration lines to the suburban boom and into today's digital age, each use etching another chapter into their story. They've taken blows that would shatter lesser machines' dropped attachments, overpacked bowls, and the relentless grind of holiday marathons, and yet their steel innards keep turning with a precision that mocks the very concept of wear. Their heavy bases still anchor against the chaos of tough mixes, refusing to wobble or tip, as if rooted by sheer will. Time has kissed them with a dull sheen, but beneath its surface lies a strength that laughs at decay. This endurance isn't luck. It's the product of a mindset that saw every bolt and gear as a soldier in a lifelong campaign, built to stand guard long after the wars of their birth had faded into history books. Now, turn your gaze to the sad state of what passes for a mixer in our current age, and the disparity cuts deep. Today's offerings, wrapped in sleek designs and inflated price tags, are little more than ticking clocks of failure waiting to strike. I've seen these modern contraptions sold as premium kitchen allies collapse under the weight of their own inadequacy during the simplest challenges. Take a well-known model from a leading brand, hyped as a must-have for serious bakers, that I watched die a pathetic death while tackling a basic bread dough. Within minutes, a faint grinding turned to a fatal snap as a brittle plastic piece in the drivetrain gave up, leaving the machine a lifeless husk and the baker stranded mid-recipe. This isn't a fluke. It's a calculated betrayal, a weak link embedded by design to ensure you're back at the checkout counter sooner rather than later. These aren't tools crafted for battle. They're pawns in a game of engineered obsolescence, built to break so the cycle of buying never stops. The contrast with their steel-clad ancestors isn't just stark, it's a condemnation of an entire ethos that prioritizes profit over permanence. How did we stray so far from the path of durability? The shift wasn't accidental. It was a cold, deliberate pivot driven by the hunger for endless revenue. In the 1940s, constructing a machine like the Model K meant pouring resources into robust materials and skilled craftsmanship. A process that treated every unit as a long-term investment in trust. That approach demanded patience and expense, values that have no place in today's race to flood shelves with the next shiny thing. Modern production leans on flimsy substitutes and rapid-fire, assembly slashing overhead while pumping out products that gleam just long enough to lure you in. They peddle excuses like enhanced user comfort or protective fail-safes. But it's a smokescreen for cutting every possible corner. The reality is, lasting quality doesn't mesh with a business model that thrives on repeat customers dragged back by broken dreams and shattered gears. We've discarded the art of building for the ages, embracing instead a disposable mindset where a machine's worth is measured in fleeting trends rather than steadfast service. It's a hollow trade, one that leaves our kitchens and our legacies cluttered with junk. So, where do these enduring titans of the past find themselves in our fleeting present? Many still hold their ground, reigning over kitchens where their owners revere the weight of history in every turn of the beater. Their battle-worn exteriors a gallery of stories told in dents and faded paint. Others have been enshrined in quieter places, resting in museum exhibits or the workshops of dedicated restorers who polish their gears as if tending to sacred relics. A fortunate few continue to hum in daily use, cherished by those who understand that true value lies in what endures, not what dazzles for a season. As I linger on their quiet defiance, A somber reflection gnaws at me. Have we sacrificed something vital in our relentless push for the new? These mixers, born of a time when strength was non-negotiable, stand as a mirror to our fragility, reminding us that once we knew how to craft not just machines, but monuments to resilience. In a world drowning in brittle remnants of forgotten purchases, I can't help but wonder if the real loss of progress isn't in what we've built, but in what we've chosen to forget.